pop-up piece logo.
Okay, I started the stream. Uh, it's
Nice.
it's titled OK Ellie or Eli.
Are you streaming Little Big Planet?
I don't play that anymore. It's Dreams. I assume that one viewer is you. Probably not. Can you at least speak, please?
Yeah.
Okay, because if I'm streaming for somebody, it's kind of strange when they don't speak.
Oh,
So you can see the stream now?
yeah.
Okay, so this is basically Dreams. Uh, this over here is that character creation thing I was talking about a while ago. So, alright. Once you start fresh, you've got a lot of templates you can choose from. My favorite template personally is showcase scene, but I'll use character and music the most. Uh, so I guess I'm just going to start off with this. Most of them are pretty empty, but um, most of the templates are templates that tag your levels. Some of them start with stuff though, but like music, for example, just starts you in music mode. That's about it. It's pretty empty. Okay, so now to go through what everything Dreams has. So first, the tools menu, which actually I can't even get into that yet. So first, sculpt mode, which is pretty good. Um, you've got a lot of basic shapes you can choose from. Um, you can use the smear option, which I don't like that much, but it's good if you want to be lazy or whatever. You could use the stamp option, where you could just stamp. You can switch in between smear and stamp, as you can see that word change. There are other ways to do it too, but I like using shortcuts. There are all these up here. Um, but there's a lot of ways to do one thing, or many things have a lot of ways to do them in this game. So, for example, looseness. Um, you can, let's see if I can do this correctly. Okay, let me exit out and then go back in. Okay, let's build a new one. So I'm just going to do that. Go to looseness, then smear looseness. But it could also be bugged in a certain update because there are lots of updates in the early alpha. So I'm not going to show that off, but you can also edit shapes with the um, edit shapes shortcut. And over here you could just tweak the looseness like this pretty easily. Uh, oh my goodness. So on this you can select gripping points. So if I select here, for example, my imp will hold it from there. Or if I select here, for example, my imp will hold it from there. Um, what else? Oh yeah, stamp mode. So if you're in stamp mode, you get more options. Um, this whole option. Okay, so basically, when you're going into it, there's like a hole in the middle. Actually, I believe you can see it from the top too. Yeah, so that's pretty cool, I guess. But that option's kind of whatever. It's just cool that we have that option. Same thing, you can tweak this, but you can also tweak the blend amount, which is my favorite thing. Um, it's the thing that allows me to make what I usually make in this game. Um, so, for example, with circles, so stamp mode, blend, and I like to use this guide called precision mode. stay upright. And I accidentally exited, but that's okay because the guide option saved. I'm just gonna have to do this again. Okay. So I'll usually, this sphere for example, I'll usually use this a lot while in blend mode because you could just see how nice it is, I guess. So it's really good
Well,
for just creating weird stuff. But I use it for basically anything. The only time I don't use it is if I'm like really lazy and let's say I want to make like wait, let me turn off. Stay upright. If I want to make some rando square or whatever, I'll just be like this. And then after that, I will do a little bit of course,
wow.
this isn't a perfect square, but wait a sec. Where is it? Oh, man. But you can do a little bit of this to it, I guess. But of course, if I'm trying to make models, I'm going to do something other than that. So then there's paint mode, which is like my favorite mode, but you can't make physical objects with it, which kind of sucks. I mean, you can, but they're clothy, not like solid, like sculpt mode objects. So with paint mode, you can paint around, whatever. Um, it's got a lot of extra options, such as kaleidoscope. Where is that? Uh, I forgot where that was. Unless they temper. Oh, okay. So kaleidoscope. From where you started paint mode is where the kaleidoscope starts. So I started paint mode over here. So with kaleidoscope, you can easily create things like flowers by just let's see if I could do this correctly, because it's kind of hard to move the camera well while doing that. Um,
Nice.
so I'm just, of course, this thing over here is kind of bugging me a bit. Okay, so let's say I created this little thing, which is, it's more of a star than a flower, but it's kind of like an outline of a flower. I can tweak things like the looseness to maybe make it take up more space. I could tweak the ruffle a little bit, and I can thicken it with the impasto. Now it looks a bit more like a flower, and if I want, I could duplicate it, but I could just also add even more to it. Now, wait a sec. Okay. So another thing about kaleidoscope too that I forgot to tell you about, while you're dragging something, it stays in kaleidoscope mode if it's made with the kaleidoscope. So I can adjust it like that. And then I I use painting mode a lot, just universally, randomly, I guess. But one thing that's good with it is just making flowers. Like, a lot of people use it to make flowers. And it's probably because the first tutorial with painting shows you flowers. But, okay, that was weird. Oops. Um, but yeah, I just like making flowers. Or not flowers, characters with painting. So here's a leaf. But this time I'm making a flower. I haven't made one in a while. So, bear with me. This is a really weird shade of green. That looks more like yellow. Let me add some finishing effects. There we go. Now it looks more like green. Of course, if you have this color indifference, you can also use a finisher that kind of balances out the colors, and then you could try to tweak it to a better shade of the color you're looking for, like that. So that's good. um, I'll do a little bit of this, and then I'm just going to add a quick stem.
Was EE the thing that Poppy's just
Evansville
I
Esports.
I think it's a local, but I'm not sure.
It's a local. It's Evansville Esports. Evansville
Okay.
Esports. EEE is, I just said it. This is a really derpy flower, but that's because the leaves and the stem I just kind of got lazy on. But if I really, really wanted to make a flower, then I would. Of course, make the stems 3D and whatever. So coat mode, I'm just gonna do that, create a random sculpture. So coat mode is an easy way to add finishing, such as glow. You can choose finisher templates. You know, of course, for this thing on its own, that isn't in real or any environment really besides the sky, is going to be kind of hard to show off some really good ones. But show off some of my favorite ones. But most of this is really only useful if you have a sculpture. Like, let's say if I was doing something like this, and it's just some random object that has 110 sculptors. Now, you can tweak one sculpture by itself and just change the finishing, or change the finish properties of it really easily like this. But you can't do that with a group of objects because you get into a group tweak menu. So if you want to do it with a group of objects, it's better to use this because it does it to every object at the same time. Of course, this one's finishing options is a bit different. So if I reset everything's finisher to 0 with the minus or subtract. Oh wait. Also, I think it's thinking this one's in a different group. But let me try a different option. Okay. Yeah, for some reason, it could be an early alpha thing, but that usually doesn't happen. Um, Whatever. Anyways, it's good for a group of stuff. I'm going to use glow mode because it's the easiest. There it is. Okay, never mind. It was the color was confusing me because I added a little tiny bit of glow. I had to remove the glow. So okay, it's not buggy. But yeah, you can make the whole thing glow, make the whole thing not glow, and I'm just gonna make the whole thing reflective because that's what I want to do for no reason. That's pretty cool, I guess. Um, so there's style mode. Let me undo real quick. So style mode, again, you can tweak these on an object by itself, but it's super useful for a group of objects such as this. You can edit the looseness, which usually makes things all fluffy in that dreams-esque style. You can change the flex. Oh, never mind. And it's kind of looking a little bit like water right now, but whatever. Change the flex. And that's really useful, especially if you're on high looseness or if you're ruffling to make all the flex kind of look away from each other so that looks more random. Or if you're, this is specific to style mode, by the way, comb. So comb lets you direct the flex. It lets you change the direction of it. Except I'm at max ruffle, so it's going to be weird. So if I take the ruffle off, you'll notice all these are now uniform because I combed it. Let me put the ruffle back on. And impasto, which just makes the flex more thick, I guess. Pop out a bit more. So all that style mode. Then there's effects mode. Again, you can tweak all these on an object by itself, but useful for groups. So you can add things like flow. Oh yeah, and combing an object also changes the direction of the flow, but also changes the effects. Let me go back to the effect.
Cool.
Yeah, flow mode, that's something. Wave, which I like a bit. Let me take off the flow or reduce it. Okay, so this is what just a regular waving object kind of looks like. A lot of people use this for grass. What else? There's evaporate, which not a lot of people like evaporate. You have to use it kind of specifically. It's, doesn't have a lot of applications. The robbing also, let me take off evaporate. So throbbing's kind of good. Let's say you want to make like a gross, like gore style kind of cave level, and you just want to make the walls like throb or whatever. You could do that, I guess. This is just add and subtract. Nothing in this menu. Over here, I forgot about the studio lighting guide, so you can use this, and it does the light all over, which is cool. Really good for making models. And then there's the floor, which is the guide I use for creating most characters because it's easy to detect symmetry with it. And also, when you're pulling out an element, so let me show you this little search option here. When you're pulling out an element, your imp will usually pull out an element based off of where the creator put the element. Now this MN thing is elements created by the creators of the game. So I'm going to try to find something, which I did just skip something, but that's like a pack. I want to find a regular... Okay, so here's an element created by Akert, which Akert's one of the most active players on this game. I think Akert's actually the highest level player right now. So it pulls it out.
Yeah, he's basically streaming.
Nice.
He's hosting the Evansville Esports song right now.
So it pulls it out where your imp is, sometimes. But sometimes someone will make a really bad object in terms of like where it's pulled out. So let's say I search up hat, or why didn't it work? Okay, that's weird. Anyways, let's say I search up hat. Now I know there's a certain hat over here that someone made that just gets pulled out like miles away from your imp for some reason. And if I can't find it, then I'm just not going to look, I guess. Yeah, I can't detect where the hat is, but I'm going to try to pull out something random and see if that works. Okay, you know what, whatever. Anyways, this floor basically tells you where the object you're going to pull out also is misplaced. So if I make this object over here, and I save that as an element, so quick save. And I have something at the center of the floor, because that's where the center of the floor is, which is usually where the creator starts. These, do another quick save, and then I'll go into another template, which this time I'll select character because, I can show you that some of them start off with objects such as character. It starts off with this little dummy. I go to pull out something. I'll go to my creations, and I'll pull this out.
Are you on regular PS4 or PS4?
I'm on regular PS4. But I'm real quick wondering if they fix that bug where it pulls out an object miles away from you, if it's mislocated on the floor, because that was kind of weird. I did not expect that. But if they fix that, that's cool. Anyways, more modes. So sound mode. So here's what I mean by the music creator in this game. So you can get something called a timeline. This isn't only for music. This can be used for logic, animations, stuff like that. So I'm going to pull out an instrument real quick. Actually, I have a list of favorite instruments I made. I forgot where I put it. So give me some time. Oh, there it is. Okay, so here's one of my favorite instruments. So, the way making music works in this game. Now, depending on the type of person you are, if you're a performer or a director, you have multiple modes. My goodness, I almost sneezed. So, over here is what I like to call the director mode. Now, you can do things such as draw notes. Okay. And you can edit the notes if you're not happy with a certain length of a note. Um, you can also do weirdo stuff like this. And the way doing that works is you have to hold L1 and do it. It's like a shortcut. Because if you just normally do it, even if you go all the way down here, it's going to continue on straight. Oh. Yay, Zelda noise. That's what I was trying to do. Anyways, um, there are a lot of cool stuff you can do while doing this. You can also change the volume, I believe. No, you can't. Okay, so this is where performance mode. You can change the volume like this, but it changes the volume the whole way. So this is where performance mode comes in handy. Now, there are these little things called effect fields right here that you can either tweak or create with the effect field option over here, which there's a base effect field that you can start with. So when you're performing, you could switch between lots of different effect fields. Of course, when you're directing, this area is the director's area. Every bit of note you direct only stays in this area. So let's say I had an effect field over here. It's only going to play the regular. It's only going to play the regular notes. But if I'm performing, effect fields will change the way the audio sounds. You can also use things like metronome to help you with making the melody. You can, playback speed. You can also change the playback speed of the instrument itself. And this is where the tweaking menus also come in for the instrument itself. So you can tweak a lot of things. So this over here, the ADSR, is the way the note works. So let me get a more wavy instrument to simplify this. Or I could, no, that instrument doesn't last long enough. Okay, razor wire is kind of wavy. Okay, so ASDR for this is, or ADSR is pretty okay. So if I make the ADSR like this, the way it works, this beginning is the build up. This here is the constant audio after the build up. So if you have the build up like right here, it's going to build up to max, and then once it hits max, its constant audio will be here. This process right here is actually skipped, this line. That doesn't matter. This over here is the fade out. So when you're finished with this part, which is just holding the note, it will fade out into this. So normally you'll get something like this, and I can hold it for as long as I want, now release it, and it'll start fading out. Of course, only certain instruments are like that, which this is one of those instruments, which is why I'm showing it off. So at the beginning, you, as you can tell, it instantly starts up loud. And if I go here, you'll hear an instant loud into an instant quiet constant, because it does that. But if I have it loud the whole time and I release, you're not going to hear a fade out because it doesn't have any fade out ADSR properties. Okay, so all this is simple stuff. You can offset the start time. That's good if you're making your own instrument, but usually instruments have a pretty okay offset. Sometimes you want to edit it though. So there's pitch. This is whatever, you already know about this. But there's also glide, which makes it so if you're performing and you're not good at using the touchpad to like bend a note into the next pitch, you could use the glide to still use default buttons, but depending on the percentage of your glide, depends on the percentage of the fade. So you can hear it kind of slowly fade in, but let me change the ADSR because it makes it easier to detect. Okay, that's too fadey though. Let me do that. So you can hear the glide now. What else? Oh, this is for like surround sound stuff, but it's mainly just speaker positioning and audio tweaking. It's also good if you want to make some notes only audible in the left ear or only audible in the right ear. Maybe you want to make a creepy song or whatever. This is also simple stuff. So when you're directing, I also forgot about this. When you're directing, there's this thing called the freeform offset. So let's say I make a few notes real quick. So okay, so this, I can actually move the notes around. But again, this grid right here, or not grid, but it's more of like a axis dotted line. That's like in this center wheel basically is still the only spot you can perform at. And plus it's better just to like move effect fields if you're gonna make music like that anyways, just to the center. Also spiciness, that's a thing too. So it sounds, some instruments sound kind of bad with spiciness. This might be one of them. Some of them aren't affected, which this is one of them, I guess. This is one of the unaffected ones. So, also while you're performing, you have the L2, which is the spice, you have the R2, which is the volume. You can choose the scale in keying. I'm not going to do that right now. I'll do that like after I'm finished. Alright, that'll be the final thing I'll show off. But with performance, you can make certain notes that you can't make while you're directing, such as shifting the volume a lot while making a bendy note. So if I wait, let me actually, so it gets recorded. Okay. So you see this note a little bit, or depending on the timing, this actually looks kind of gross though. Depending on the timing, you know, it doesn't have to be. So that's just me creating some random note. And so you have complete freedom over, you know, where you want to increase the volume, lower it while you're making it, and where you want to bend it while you're making it. Spicing too, but this is one of those instruments that aren't affected by spicing. So let me get one that is. Oops. Okay. I know. See, there's an instrument I use a lot. Okay, well, this one should be affected by spice. Okay, it is. It's kind of hard to notice, but when you're not spicing, it's like, and when you are spicing, it's a bit more enhanced. So it enhances the audio a bit when you're spicing. Only for this instrument, though. You can, or where is it? I believe it's here. It's something to do with this while you're spicing, I believe. Like, you can add your own spice effect if you're making your own instrument, or you can add spice effects to instruments. But for now, I'm just going to use one with the preset spice. So if let's say I want to bend change volume while bending and spice while bending. And then let's say I make a regular note with just like some spice pulsing in it, regular note with some volume bending in it, and just a regular note. Maybe do a little bit of that. You're gonna get a sheet that kind of looks weird. Now, to tell where I was bending, since the color of this instrument's kind of weird, it's kind of hard to tell where I was bending. Let me try to tweak that a little bit. Something where it's easier to see the bends, such as here. So the green is a bended area, or the green are bends. The yellow is just the regular notes. So as you can see, while I was making, I was bending it a little bit. I never really changed the volume that much while bending. So let me make another quick note where I actually change the volume while bending a bit more. So clear this. Not bending, but I meant spicing. Okay, the whole time I meant spicing. So here you can see some spice mid-volume change. Okay, so that's also the aesthetics. So if I do this, just like spam random notes everywhere, the funny thing is, you can see little notes while it's playing, which is a nice aesthetic, I guess. Where else? Whatever. Okay, so that's that. Making the instrument, of course, if I wanted to make a quick drum instrument, alright, forgive my beatboxing, but I'm gonna try to do that real quick. So there's this thing, sound gadgets, microphone, or it's like a recorder. I forgot where that was. Alright, big, there it is. Okay. So let's say I do a quick, let me bring this close. Alright, instead of beatboxing some of them, I'm just gonna like hit the mic aggressively. So if I make one that's like, tss. Okay, so we have a few sample sounds for our instrument. Now to actually make the instrument. So when making an instrument, you want to grab a blank instrument. And the best way to do that is basically to pick up a random instrument and clear it out. So let's get this bad boy. Actually, no. There's another way to do this that I forgot about. Trying to find it out. Because I know I did this last time when I was making an instrument, which is called Zedster blowing into the mic for some reason. Whatever. I'll just get a random instrument and clear it out. No harm in that. Okay, so. And also, since it's by the creators of the game, it won't count as anyone else's creation. So I'm going to clear out all of these. Okay, so basically the type of instrument I want to make with the sounds I made is a drum instrument. So a really good way to make a drum kind of instrument is to tweak this, and you can change the button layout, or the row mapping. So row mapping regularly depends on the pitch, and then you can add like notes for it to have a chance to play. So basically like RNG notes at that pitch. Over here is the row mapping, which is more of a, well, you press this button, it has to play this. You can also add RNG for it, but instead of depending on pitch, it depends on the buttons. So I made a few noises, so I'm gonna copy and paste this a lot. Okay, so now time to actually start editing the row map, or the slice that I'm putting in the row maps. So if I want to tweak this, let's say I want to make X play a certain sound. So I'll have it about there. Okay, that's pretty good. It's kind of quiet for some reason. Could have sworn that I made the noise louder than that while I was recording, but I guess I didn't. Doesn't matter though, you can always make the volume extra loud if you want. Oh my goodness. Okay, so it's basically X. Now to do another one, so I'm going to add one to square. Oops, I accidentally added another one to X. Okay, let me close this out. Oh yeah, I'm also selecting X, so let me deselect it too. For some reason it's not. Okay, I think I can do this anyways, so I'll just do that. Okay, so square, I want this first sound to be the square sound. So okay, so there we have two sample sounds. Of course, I made a lot of sounds in this instrument, as you can see by down here. But we're just going to have our two X and square, for example. So another thing about this instrument is that it's pre-tweaked to have some kind of echoes and stuff. So I'm going to take all that off. So all this is fine. Over here. All right. Okay, come on. Okay. So yeah, that's the basics of making your own instrument. Again, you have things to tweak. I didn't go over all of them last time, so I'm gonna go over the rest. Granular synthesis is more of like a stretch and wah kind of thing. So if I hit it to 0, then kind of stops. And also depending on the overlap, it also depends on the stop timing. So if I really stretch it, it's going to do really stretched freezes. Or if I really shorten it around here, then it's going to do really shortened freezes. Of course, there's also the interval of each loop. So if I set this to, you know, negative 100, it's going to loop instantly, basically, and it's just going to sound like a constant beat. But if I change it, it's going to take a longer time to loop. Okay, so time stretch too. So so that's some stuff. Now granular randomization's a bit advanced, not because it has a lot of settings, but because it's difficult to work with and it's RNG. Like start time jitter, for example. So sometimes it'll start earlier in the offset or later in the offset. Except since the X beat is just a constant like the whole time, you're not really going to see much of a change unless I put it to like 100%. So now I press X, sometimes it doesn't even play because it started off so late. And sometimes it might. It depends if I'm lucky enough to get an earlier start. So, but that's useful for some things, I guess. What's up? What else is good? So, pan jitter. This is only good if you're trying to make a song that sounds like it's around, like all over the place. So if I'm spamming square, sometimes I hear it on the left, sometimes I hear it on the right. Pitch jitter. Now this is like the worst thing. But since I'm using an instrument like this, it probably won't work too much. But pitch jitter, sometimes the pitch changes. It's basically all these jitters are different. Shape jitter, by the way, shape in music refers to the type of wave it is. Well, the wave of the audio. So, for example, um, a sine wave kind of shape to an instrument would make the instrument go into a sine melody, but it would still be the instrument. It's just its shape will be sine. Or if its shape is square or saw, then its melody will be like square or saw. And I'm going to express that in this option, which is the oscillator. So this is basically what I mean when I'm talking about the shape. So over here basically gives it 100% chance to give it a shape that I want it to play at. So let's say I do a square wave, which is right here, about. So let me do it like this. So I'm on mix mode. Let me change the mix up a little bit. So now my drum beats will be on the path of the square shape. Or if I do it sine, which is way back here. But since it already is kind of sine, then it being on that path isn't really noticeable unless I'm using like a square based instrument. This over here is just your simple resonant filter. Nothing too much to it. This, by the way, goes on infinitely, and it's going to stretch more and more and more. Might hit a limit, but it... Oh my goodness. Okay. But this isn't really good for drums. It's mainly, like, it can work really, really well for drums, but it's mainly for other things that you mix into drums, like wavy instruments or audio. Now, distortion, this I'm pretty sure you know. um, a lot of people love distortion, like, even outside of music. But this is just a wave shape. Up here is more squarey, down here is more siney, and over here is more collapsed, and over here is less collapsed. So this would be a very not collapsed square wave, if you want to put it. Well, actually, no, if you're doing square wave, then less collapse is more collapse, in a way. So you might want to do it over here. Anyways, what else do you have? This is just chorus stuff. Simple, not good for drums, so I'm not really going to try to show it off. Chorus is basically that effect where you play a note at a lot of different pitches and different oscillations at the same time. Equalizer is also pretty simple, so I'm not really going to go through that. Really good for drums though. Dynamics compressor. Now this one's a bit something. So let's see. So if I'm going to make it the opposite of everything right now and just like put it here. So upwards is the amount of dynamics compressor. Now this is only really good, I believe, if you're on realistic audio mode. But I'm not on realistic audio mode. And I'm also using this custom instrument that I created. So it's not really good. Like, you're not going to see any real change in it. Well, I mean, over here you can, because I'm changing the dirtiness up, and apparently that's making my drums quieter, so apparently these are some dirty drums. But yeah, these are sound outputs. Basically, you can use these for logic. So if you're trying to make a rhythm-based game, you can use, like, certain things. Let's say if a note's playing like this, then the note will activate something while it's playing. So if you make a song that's like do 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 do, then the notes will be like pulse, 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 and you can have that activate little arrows, maybe. So you could remake audio surf if you wanted. So that's a lot to do. I forgot to tell you about 3D panning, which this is basically the realistic audio mode I was talking about earlier. So when you're making a level scene and you're making audio and you just want someone to hear it from like a certain area, so basically you have a song playing, but they can't hear it until they're at least. I actually can't grab that because the timeline's in the way. Um, you have to hear it from at least over here. Now this, um, let's see, I changed the zone. So yeah, the zone. This usually, you wouldn't notice this at first, but now since I made it so small, you can easily see it. This is the outer reach of the zone, basically where the player is going to hear it the least. Out of the outer reach, the player is not going to hear it at all, basically, because that's where the volume hits zero. Now this is an infinite zero. So picture this as this being an infinite one, where the volume can get to 100, or this line right here that's outside of the green. This is where the volume can get to 100, but if you're in this range of space, you will never touch 100 until you're somehow at this line, which you'll never get to if you're in this range of space. And this over here is absolute zero, which you'll never get to, or I should say infinite zero, which you'll never get to if you're in this area of space. But since we're not controlled by the area of space right now, then we can easily get to it because we can cut in between, the audio's dimensions. um, Over here, extra, yeah, this is just your basic stuff. Reverb, as to like maybe signify that it's in some type of room, and this is just like picture like an equalizer. That's kind of what this is, I guess. But this is more of a until you're in it kind of thing. Now the flat zone is where the absolute 100 is. If you're inside the flat zone, you're basically in 100%. If you're outside of the flat zone, then you're at infinite whatever the amount is compared to how close you are and how far you are away from the outer reach or edge. So, that's cool, I guess. I think that's really it when it comes to audio. You can also make sound effects, and you can make logic that goes by, like, let's say something, you want to make a really good sounding song. All you do is make a lot of sound effects that sound like notes, and you have a robot or something that just plays the notes for you. You can do something like that. So this is also, well, okay, I also want to show you more about animations, but I want to skip to gadgets. So this is also where gadgets come in. So I made this level a long time ago. Where is it? And also this level has animation too. Also, let me delete this because this is like spam.
Cool.
So it's easier for me to search up the level. Which I should also put it on my, you know what? No, I'm going to put it on my Earth. Where is it? Because I made a collection called, there it is. Alright. Edit collection, yep. Search. Alright, text search. That was a weird misspelling. Okay, I'm going to put this around levels, even though it's an asset. It's more of a tool. And I'm going to save this. And I'm going to save that. I'm not going to upload it yet. Not again, anyways. That'd be too spammy. Okay, so this is where this level comes in. So, let me play it. So this is a basic character that Dreams gives you called Connie, which for tool demonstration levels, I like to use Connie because everyone's familiar with how Connie works if they've played Dreams. So in Connie's logic, I basically made it so if you slam, because normally when you slam, nothing really happens besides it pushes a lot of objects. So I made it so when you slam, it activates a tag called Hulk, just Hulk, full stop. And these sensors, or these buttons that I put sensor arrays on, made it so if you activate Hulk on the button, then it will spawn these little things. Now this over here is an infinite range. In the center is infinite 100, which you can never get to, and outside is infinite 0, which you can also never get to. But you could just get very, 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 very close to both of them, but you'll never get to them. So, basically, the animation is caused by the logic. So, the way the logic, or the orientation of the logic, which is expressed by the math up there, changes the animation, which is going on over here, which is the particle effects kind of stuff. Except this has to do with quantum physics that I don't really want to talk about because you might not know what I'm talking about. Because, yeah, like basically no one's interested in quantum physics. But this is based off of quantum physics. It's based off of the particle wave function equation. So, now for the logic that goes into this. So, whoa. Let me try to open some chips. So, most of it's just math. Let me move this. I'm not going to save changes, so moving them is not going to really matter. And even if I do save changes, I have a backup version, just in case I somehow do that by accident, which might happen one of these days. Okay, so, the logic. You can use things like the calculator, which is extremely useful, and the wave generator, or signal generator, which is super useful for stuff like this. But I feel like it would be better if I expressed what's going on here by using this open space over here. So, also I have grade. You might see that the game looks a bit different. That's because I have grade and effects on over here, which you can tweak the way the game looks. Some of the most noticeable effects are stuff like pin cushion or vignette, maybe vignette color. Jesus, this okay. Anyways, gadgets. Oh wait, I also have that sky thing on too. Let me delete that. And I keep missing the delete. You know what? I don't care. Again, I'm not saving this level, so to start off, we have the sensors. This is basic stuff. Well, some of them aren't even sensors, but they're in the same category. So, signal generator, you know, it's good for just creating a certain type of signal, I guess. I mean, it's just a wave generator. Let's be real. Other stuff. So these are sensors. I'll go through the names of them, which are pretty self-explanatory, because I don't want to go explaining every piece of logic in the game. Not right now, anyways. A switch is basically like a toggle. Doing that turns it off, doing that turns it on. But it's also good that I pulled that out, because now I can show you some other cool things. Now you can tweak settings of logic with other logic. So let's say sweep seconds. Let's say by default I make it 13, so it takes 13 seconds to do a full sweep. I turn it off, it goes to 0. So now it does a tweak every Planck time. And I turn it on, then it's 13.9. But let's say I'm very specific with it, right? So I make the value, let's say 10 by default. And now for the logic and processing to start existing. So, also value slider is just a value slider, but you can also use that to tweak things too if you want. I used it in this level over here. As you can see, these are value sliders. They used to say value slider, but I renamed them so I remember what each one of them does. So timer. This is kind of good in this game, like really good. You can use it for a lot of things. I like to use a timer as a percentage strength. So let me pause time real quick. I make it, let's say 4 out of 5. So that's 80% strength.
and then I simply just connect the pulse to the play, and then I set it to, I believe, speed. Okay, so since pulse is always at 0 until it hits max, it's always going to stay at that spot by itself. You don't need any extra logic. At that spot, the timer output is at 80%. So this is going to be 80% of 10, which is 8. And it's really good for setting stuff. Makes it easier when you're making logic. For like, this is just one piece, so it's not really that useful yet. But if we're making a bit of logic that has to do with a lot of pieces, then that's when it becomes useful. Because you could just tweak this and just do like that, and then apparently, everything goes through that same process. This over here does the same thing. So where is it? These timers over here are basically the math for the strength of the particle functions and stuff like that. Let me delete these. Okay, so most of these are signals, or signal modifiers. This is useless in this game. Well, no, not this. This is useless in this game. This is useful still. And I'm not really gonna explain what the gates do since they're all kind of simple stuff. I mean, maybe I might do it anyways because there could be a chance. So gates, basically, AND gate is just an AND function. So I connect A and B. If both A and B are on, then it's going to light up. If one is off, then it's not going to light up because it's not A and B, it's only A. And then same thing goes with this. Now it's only B, so it's not going to do anything. And you have a lot of stuff. And of course, if that's not enough AND gate inputs for you, you can just add more and more AND gate inputs, because you can add up to I forgot, but you can use that AND gate and connect it to another AND gate to do the same thing. So basically infinite AND gate outputs, or inputs. And the OR gate's useless in this game because OR gate, it's basically this or this, which is useful. But in this game, you can do a little thing like, let's say I get one NOT gate, get another NOT gate, I attach it to this NOT gate, and I could just put 2 NOT gates in one output. And putting multiple things in one output is already sending an OR command, which makes it not, it makes the OR gate not really useful. NOT gate's useful, I guess, especially in this game, because this makes it so if a value is sensed, such as this, while that value is on, the NOT gate should appear to be off. Yes, so the output is off. So let me get a thing that can sense the output, such as, I don't know, another timer. Pause. So this timer will only play, well, since this is put on output mode, then basically if I set this to speed, okay, so the more this timer is about to finish, the less this timer is about to finish. So it's going to slow down a bit, as you can see. And it just slows down to there. Now this is an absolute 0 because this can reach an absolute 100. But let's say I made it so that I did a little bit of something like this. And oh wait, no, that's opposite. We do this. I didn't even need this. So now it should never be able to reach 100. It will just get slower and slower and slower. So it'll be an infinite 100. And this will also be an infinite 100. But that's because it's, this is using a countdown mechanism now. And this is also doing a countdown mechanism. So this is now a count up mechanism. But the same laws would apply if I were to do a little bit of this and then reset it.
So now this can reach an absolute 100, I guess, versus both of them trying to be an infinite 100 at the same time. Whatever. It's all just that kind of logic. Now for signal manipulator, my favorite thing. Basically, this is just good if you have logic. Let's say has an RNG range and you want to collapse that range into a specific range. You can do something like this, where I don't think, does this have a strength randomization? Well, it doesn't, but I can add a strength randomization by doing evil deeds that only evil people know of, and I'm an evil person, so let me make the sweep seconds 0. All right. Let me make the range kind of random, and the range of this kind of random. Okay, so now we have a really random thing over there. Let me add more to this randomization. So I'm going to add a timer that really quickly just switches through outputs over and over again. So pulse is going to be reset. Okay. Now I could make the timer even smaller by using math, because the next option up from 0 is 0.1 when you're tweaking. But if I use a calculator and let's say I do an equation such as 1 and then times 0.1. So this should also be, well, 0.01. So this is now 0.01, but I can also move it really downwards and just do like 0.3 times 0.01, which would be 0.003. And I could put this in here. And now this is, it looks like 0, but it's actually not. So if I slightly increase it, oh my goodness. Okay, so there's like a, there we go. So if I slightly increase it, it says it's 0, but it's not. It's really 0.56 times 0.01. So it's basically 0.0056. And that's what this setting is now. So that's just using a little bit of math. So now with this thing that I've made, I can set it so that every pulse will change the randomization option. And I'll just simply set this into the signal manipulator, and it should tweak a random range of stuff, such as this. Now, since this is completely random, you know, it's kind of iffy for it not being collapsed. But this is a manually made random signal. So if I made it to be random, then I kind of want it to be random. But let's say you're tweaking a character or something. Sometimes a character's footsteps, which you can get the signal of, getting a signal of a character's footsteps requires puppet logic, which I'll go over later. But you have something that's random like this, and you just don't like that, so you can compress it into a nice little range where it's basically around that range. Or you can just set it to an absolute range, which is kind of hard for me to do because I don't have the accuracy right now. This is basically as close to an absolute range as I'm getting. It seems very absolute, but it also, I can see the jitter. There's a tiny jitter in that. It's hard to notice though. Okay. Calculator, I kind of showed you me using it, but here are all the options you have for it. Oh boy. I'm getting real shaky right now for no reason. Okay. So Node works strangely in this game. It's more of an organization tool versus what it was in this game's 100% way more inferior version. So nodes, look at this here. Nodes send out an input and an output. It sends inputs and outputs, but you can also tweak the node to have a custom icon. So let's say this was designed to be more of like
an environmental logic. So I make it look like this. And that node is something that tweaks the lighting in a weird way. So I can make lighting logic over here and then make the node's icon this. So from the outside, you'll see like this little light bulb. And then you could just easily connect something to that. So it's, it's very organized. You can also use something that turns the node off, which you can mimic an AND gate by doing this. You have one set to turning it on, and you have another one that's just set to triggering it, or doing the node's command. So, but that's, let's say, if an AND gate only had 2 slots. You can also make it an AND OR gate by doing that. But AND OR gates, we can just make that with an AND gate by itself. So these 2 are good for controller sensors, so I'm just going to place them down. These are value ranges in a way. Well, they can be used as value ranges. I like to use them as value ranges. Sometimes I use them as score. So you can set a variable of score, which I used in one of my levels, and I can show you that later. You still there, Ellie man? Eli man?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will show you how this works as score in my other level, but you can also make it persist through levels. So you could save score through your levels, whatever. You can also make leaderboards and stuff like that. There is a preset scoring system, however, which is just called score, but it's basically like a really weirdo version of value modifier, except it's specifically for leaderboards. Value modifier, you can use score for like shops and stuff instead of leaderboard, but it works the same way. But you don't have to use it for score. You can use it for other things too. All these are just movers, which are really, well, this isn't a mover, but most of these over here in this area are movers. But they're kind of weird in this game. I'm a master at using them, especially with that contraption I created way over there in the distance. But most of it is stuff that you really only want to use when you're making characters and stuff, or maybe robots. So over here, when you put a mover on an object, you have an XYZ axis, which you can change around if you want. I like to keep it at its regular axis and just tweak these settings accordingly. But if you're very specific, then you can always just do some weirdo thing like that. If you're just some very specific weirdo. Sometimes I go specific weirdo mode and do that kind of stuff with gyroscopes. Back to the logic. Followers and look at rotators, they're just they're good for just following things and looking at things. Over here is a rocket rotator. That's good for objects, like let's say you want to have something going in arc and you want it to like move it in a certain way, have it rotate in a certain way without having to set up rotator logic. This is also good for that. It's nothing that great though, unless you're using the controller sensor, so I'm just going to put that down. Emitters in this game are kind of weird, so if I get a ball, anyways, if I get a ball real quick, I make it movable so that it can fall, and let's say I have a little bit of fun with it. So here's another thing I kind of want to show you, and this falls into the design category, which is the logistics category. Making this thing bouncy, all right, and squishy. So now it's gonna, okay, maybe it wasn't bouncy enough. Let's do a little bit of that, make it a bit less squishy since that was too squishy. Okay, so now it's gonna do something like that. So I select an object to emit. I'm gonna set that over there. Now I can move where I want the object to be emitted. So I want the object to be emitted here. Okay. This over here is the velocity of emission. So if I want it to shoot straight up into the atmosphere right when I emit it, then it will do that. Of course, I don't have the velocity set to, or the emit speed set to unrealistic cannonball, like whatever. Well, that's actually realistically fast, but I can get unrealistically fast. Okay, give me some time. Oh wait, is that the max speed? Okay, you know what? I might have to use a calculator for that later if I want to do it unrealistically fast. Because that's not even near the speed of light. I wanted to go past the speed of light. That's unrealistically fast. Anyways, let's set this bad boy back to 0. Absolute 0. So now it's just going to emit in place. Blip. Also, the more emission, or when you don't have emission speed, the arrow's gone. When you do, the arrow's there. So that's kind of good indicator, I guess. Same thing goes with the rotation velocity. And over here is the axis of the rotation. So you can do a little bit of this if you want it to like rotate specifically, except I'm using a ball. So let me actually, or not a ball, but a sphere. I'm gonna have to tweak the emitter to find that invisible sphere, because there's like an invisible counterpart to it that you can't really find easily. Oh wait, let me try this. Yeah, I found you. Okay, let me do this real quick. I mean, I remember where I put it, but jeez. So now it has a weirdo thing on it. Okay, so that kind of looks inappropriate, but it will let us see if it's rotating or not. As you can see, it rotates. But once it hits something, it's going to kind of stop rotating because of, friction loss. Time between emits is just how quickly you want it to emit. And let me take that off because that's bothering me. So that's all just simple stuff, I guess. What else? Oh yeah, there's also max emitted at once. So you can just make that bad boy infinity and watch the game die inside real quick. Okay. Oh boy. I made a character fall off screen. Oops. Which was Connie. Man, she's still falling off screen. Jesus. Okay. But yeah, you could just keep stacking them, I guess. And soon my game will die, but whatever. You can also add lifetime to the objects. So let's say I make these objects live for a maximum of 0.4 seconds. That's too short, actually. Let me do it like that. And yeah, you can get a nice little effect like this. This is also a good way to, let's say you're making a documentary on quantum physics or virtual particles. This is a good way to try to do something like that. Of course, but this isn't stylized around that or anything. I'm gonna delete that. What else can I do? So this stuff is very specific to characters. They're really self-explanatory. This isn't specific to a character, though. I mean, well, this stuff you can maybe use for objects, but it's best on characters. You can make a brick house so that you hit the bricks on the house. The bricks get dimmer and dimmer as you hit them, and the bricks will, I don't know, explode or something. I want to do that real quick, actually. So let's say this block is a brick house. I'm going to health modifier. What? Health manager, health modifier. I put a destroyer here, and the destroyer instantly activated. I forgot that they do that. So, oh boy. I don't think there's any, okay. Now, here's where animation comes in when it comes to using animation for logic. So, let's say I want to make it so this bad boy gets darker or does whatever I want it to do, the lower health it gets. So, at basically infinite zero, it will look very similar to being at this position and being somewhat bright with, I don't know, reflective properties, and it will be green. Why not? Okay, so basically, I will use the current health. Well, no, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of magic. So, well, let me do some of that magic real quick. Not gate, not really magic actually, just kind of. Okay, so I forgot that happens. Let me, I think it has a thing where it's got no health. There it is. All right, I'll do that. So, at absolute zero, this thing should die. Um, Now I need to make a health manager, or now I need to edit this health modifier, sorry, where every time it will sense a certain thing, it will decrease its health by 10. So it will detect a foe label. Okay. Well, it's not letting me set the zone. Let me do a zone. Okay. So anytime a collidable foe is within this area, it should decrease the block's health. So now for testing, I'm going to use the good old bad boy emitter, and we're just going to create a foe object. Okay, that was random. Boop. Movable foe. Object to emit this bad boy. Emit that bad boy. No, 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 not the invisible one. Come on. Can I? Oh boy. Okay, let me select it again. So if I move the invisible one first, I'm gonna have to do this real quick. Maybe move that emitter. This stuff's getting a bit strange. Okay. So foe should be... Anyways, foe should be emitting in this area. Every... You know... Wait, is it not collidable? I think I made foe not collidable. Man, oh man, that is such a boomer move. And it's collidable. I can see it right there, but... okay. I might have to set that to movable. But let's hope that's not too much of an issue. I could just make it set not collidable foe. Because that's an accident I just made. Okay. I keep misclicking, Jesus. Like, what's with my accuracy today? Come on. Is that too much range? Maybe? Why isn't it emitting? Oh. Oh yeah, I was emitting too many of them. Because it already hits limit before the objects died, apparently. Which I did not expect. Especially with the emit time. Let's do infinite. And let's do that. Okay. Let's move that here. Now, if it's still not working, I'm just going to use tags because maybe labels are bugged again. So real quick, I'm just going to pull out tag. I'm going to name the tag berry beans. There we go. And I'm going to connect berry beans to this object we're emitting. Okay, so now there's a lot of berry beans. Keep accidentally going brain dead. Oh man.
And instead of using this guy's detector, I'm going to use my own detector. Alright? So let's get this to just, you know, do its thing. And I can't set it to impact because it's not impacting. So, berry beans. Right? Okay. Is there a way to make this always on? Continuous? No. Unless I can make it detect the tag, but I can't do that. Okay, I'm gonna have to find another way to just basically kill it. But usually when you're creating it on a character, it's not this much of an issue. I'm just brain dead today for no reason. Oh my goodness. Okay, that happened. Let me get a timer or some type of value. So timer. Here's a thing. Ooh, counter. Okay, good. I was about to make a counter with too much logic. Okay, so let's do this now. Oh wait, delete this. Actually, you know what? I still need that not gate, just for the health. Current health. Okay. So now, every time this thing is detected, the counter should count up by 1. Okay, but it's emitting too fast, or emitting too quickly too. So let me nerf that emit time to something reasonable, like this. I'm also going to nerf the counter count because that's too high. I'm going to make it like 8. Okay, 10 seconds. You okay, emitter? Boom. Activated. Okay, so it's counting up now. That's good. The not gate is being dumb, so I'm just going to make my own not gate. Well, it's not that it's being dumb. It's just counters don't have a good time. Or not, yeah, counters don't have a good time with not gates. So if I do it like this, then hopefully that makes its own not gate. I'm going to have to get this to negative 100. Really? Really, counter. You know what? There we go. That's better. Then I'm going to pull out my own not gate again. Well, not my not gate, but this not gate. Well, this is a problem. Oh man, I don't know why I'm so brain dead today. Jesus. Okay, let me start from scratch. I think I need to do that. So keep this bad boy here though. Alright, real quick, I'm just going to do this. Signal manipulator. Okay. Current health. Okay, that's not... Current health. Boom. This will activate this. I'll make it go by invert output. Bloop. 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 And bloop. There we go. Now, every time that's activated, it'll activate a counter, which will be the hit amount. And I accidentally scoped in. Detected. Add to the counter. Or I could make it decrease from the counter and just set the counter to max. So, 17 hits. Alright. Current amount, because that's not a thing you can find from the outside for some reason. I'm going to make its current amount its current health. Okay, so every time it counts down, it should get closer and closer to death. Now the keyframe, I'm going to have to add some type of transition to, I think. Oh, okay, I see. Group, not movable. This is better. Now it's going to emit more times without it dying inside. Okay, so it dies, but the keyframe's acting weirdly. So I'm going to do this again. Or maybe... I don't know what's causing that. That's so strange. Let me do it the old way again and see if it works better now that I reset the logic. No? Okay, keyframes are working weirdly right now. I don't know if it's because of this thing over here, but basically I wanted to make it so this does a weird fade in to show you the way animation works, but it's not letting me do that. And it's kind of bugging me because I can't show this off correctly. Okay. Will this work? I'm going to do the same thing again, but with the counter. Counter? Okay. This has to work. And it's not working. Oof. Oh yeah, I see. I see why. The counter is the value of it isn't percentage. So I'm going to do it with this. Or I'm going to do it with the timer. Because that value is at least percentage, if I remember. So the more this counts down... Nope. It's going to stay at 5. Jeez, that thing's buggy. Counters are super buggy. Okay. Let me do it by positional. Maybe that might work. Nope. Counters are bad. I should change those to position values. But from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it should work. From 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's basically going to look weird once it starts counting down. And now it's out of range because I made it move. Boom. Death. Okay, I guess that expressed what I wanted to show you, but man, counters are not good in this game. Don't use counters. In fact, let's see if I can do this. If I can... Really? Why is the game not letting me open that? Okay. Now let me open it. That was weird. Current time. Hopefully current health to current time does percentage. Nope. Bruh. Okay, whatever. I will show you a better example of that later if you want to see one, but I think you got the point. Anyways, keyframes. So with keyframes, you can also edit logic settings. These get animated. Anything that you animated with the keyframe has a barrier around it. So I can, you can't move logic. Well, you can't move microchip windows with the keyframe. That's just a thing you move normally. That doesn't matter though, because they have no real relevancy with anything outside of it. So just move all that stuff and you can just activate the keyframe simply and all of that will happen. Now there's other things too, like record possession, where you put it down, you possess an object, you make it move a lot, like you record a character to move a certain way, and then you stop recording, and then it will show that off.
Um, this, eh, this isn't really that useful. Like, you could just plug your mic out and put it back in. Like this isn't useful. Um, Action recorder. Okay, so this is like a super keyframe. So for the time I record the action, time will relativistically move with the action that I'm recording. And as soon as I finish recording that action, um, okay, in the brink of time, those actions will slowly start happening. See that? That's a bit weird. Yeah. Okay, so that's all that stuff. All this stuff um, over here, this is just like text-based stuff. This, one of my favorite things, just straight up rumbles the controller. Uh, nothing special, just rumbles the controller. Only if it's activated though, which you know what that means. Test to rumble. Well, I have controller vibration off. Let me turn that on real quick. Accessibility. Not accessibility. Devices. Wow, you can't tweak controller rumble from the quick menu? Bro, that's stupid. Anyways, gameplay stuff. Checkpoints are basically areas where your character can come from. They're just checkpoints. You can tweak them in various ways, but none of it's really useful besides it being checkpoints. Prize bubbles, they practically have a use, but they're not really going to be used as much as you'd expect because the way creating dreams elements works. Because lots of people will just, they'd be like, well, if you want this, you can just get it from the element. But you can make private elements that no one can access or use unless they get a prize bubble with that element in it. So let's say let's try to find something. Okay, so this base I made. Let's say if that was a private object, you would not be able to use this unless you picked up the prize bubble with it in it. Anyways, doorways, they're a good way to make levels transfer between other levels or make levels end. They're really good. That's really the only practical use they have. You can also make it have an effect, so you can make it like fade into another level. That's cool. Auto guides. These are something you usually use on like every creation that you make. Auto guides are things that make it pretty easy to just focus on one object by itself without all the other objects doing that thing in that group. And these are just the puppets. This is my favorite puppet, and these are the other puppets. Over here is the puppet interface I was talking about, where you can allow things to happen. So these inputs are basically rules that you can set for the puppet. And tweaking the puppet also has its own insane set of menus. Over here is what the puppet does. So if the puppet does any of these, it sends an output. And depending on the strength of what the puppet's doing, also depends on the strength of the puppet outputs. And that's what I was talking about a long time ago with the signal modifiers, where that whole compressing an RNG signal comes in handy. Because let's say when they're running, for example, and it goes tat 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 tat, sometimes it's like a big step, or sometimes it's a short step, and you just want them all to be a regular step. Cameras and lighting, this is all simple, like effects stuff. I've already shown you grading effects, not completely though, but most of it, it's just screen stuff, I guess, if you want to call it. Ew. um, where else? Wiper. Wiper is basically like the thing people like to use with the doorway. It's like the double whammy. Um, Rulers. These are for measuring things. So when I made the Pichu actual size, be right back. I use rulers.
I got it though, but it's pretty cool.
Nope. Yes, I check it every day. Yeah. Okay, I'm back. So basically, I use a ruler to create like actual size stuff. Um, but it goes by meters, so some people might not be used to using them because some people go by feet, some people go by meters. Um, Camera pointer, just a thing. When it activates, it points the camera. You can set where you want it to be pointed easily by scoping into it. Um, but you can also just direct it, period, if you already know how the camera works. Um, so, yeah, all of it's just here's a light. You can set it to be a spotlight or a diffuse. All simple stuff. I like to use a light to make specific fog, but there's also fog, which is good. And I like to use fog to make particles because that's me, okay? And the way fog works, of course, outside of it is an infinite zero, inside of it is an infinite 100. So if you're bounded by its space, you'll never reach 0 or 100. Bolts are good for connecting things, or these connectors. Not only bolts, some of them are pistons and sliders and strings. But yeah, they're good for connecting stuff, basically. And these are just various sound options. Guides, again, they help you with stuff. And for the finale, tools. So tools are basically things where they're good for like keeping things in certain states. So let's say you want an object to not be affected too much by logic. Now, having an object not affected by animation logic is kind of hard. But by regular object, you can freeze the object. Especially if it's a movable object, you can just freeze it. Um, and it won't really be affected by anything movement-wise. But animations, when moving something with an animation, that doesn't count as like a movement. That's changing its position without changing its speed. Because in reality, there are two dimensions of movement. One has 3 axes, the other one has, or 3 axes, the other one has 3 axes. One's called the position axes, and the other one's called the momentum axes. And in space, you can move an object, you can change an object's position without changing its velocity or its speed. Except that's really, really hard to do. Like, that's stuff you can only really do to particles. But in this game, it works like that, but on any scale. You can change something's position without changing its speed. Be right back. Yes? Yeah. Before my mom. Okay. So, yeah, that's the way these work. Sculpture detail is good for optimizing your graphics, thermo, and stuff like that, making the level easier for the PlayStation to run. Also, the way sculpture detail works is that if a sculpture has the same hash ID as the other one, then it's going to change all the sculptures that same hash ID. It's kind of weird. Cloning, just simple cloning. Oh yeah, and I also forgot to show you one thing about paint mode. I don't know why I clicked that. Paint mode. When you have a painting, this has its own options, such as duplicates, which you can also change the type of duplicates. A lot of people like to use this kind. You can change, where is it? There it is. You can
change the way the flex animate in a way. Uh, this one's one of my favorites. I use this one to make rain. Except this over here is not a good example of rain whatsoever. But yeah, paint has its own thing, which is why it was one of my favorite modes back in the day. Anyways, here's one of my, or let me actually just try to search for it because it's way easier doing that. What the heck? That is quite the typo for rain. Okay, this is my rain effect. Pretty simple. It's all over the place. Kind of hard to notice unless you're looking upwards or you're in a somewhat dark level. Or unless you have the sky changed, which I'm going to do real quick. So, doot. Doot. Doot, doot, doot. Let me make the sky red. And I might tweak the rain too if I can. Now it's way easy to notice. And it's everywhere. Yay, rain! So that's cool, I guess. But that's a lot to do with Dreams creation, and a lot of people have made amazing things. There's also these little imp quests over here, which you can unlock imps with. And you can also just make your own little imp, which is like your cursor or your profile persona in a way. We are back again. But these are all my imps. Ooh. Yes. Okay, you need to keep it. So, what's this? Oh, what? Jimmy J75? Dude, really? I haven't seen him in an age. Okay. Anyways, um, yeah, that's Dreams Creator. Dreams has a good, like, pretty big community of just creative people. You can easily find Dreams to play with Dream Surfing, but if you want to find everything at once, then you go with Dream Shaping, and you can easily just search for stuff. Um, and of course, you've got the cringy people, well, quote, cringy people that are going to make the quote, cringy things. Um, but let me just search for something basic like a house. You can see anything that has to do with a house. Or, like, this is a pretty good set of stuff. Wow, that's cool. Um, but yeah, lots of little sets. Or you might see things that aren't as good, such as this. But you can either use those as elements. Anything with this kind of thing is an element. Anything with this kind of border, or yeah, that's what I meant, like a border shape. This is a level border, or it's a playable element as it technically is. And this is an element. And this is where a map of levels are. Sometimes a dream is one level though, and some people just use it because they like the border. But usually, dreams are mini levels. But some people will make some super basic things, such as this. This is like a level that even I could make, if you give me enough time. Like I could probably make this okay person. Dude, that's a lot of sneezes. I could probably make this in like half a day. And that's just me not being like really good with the creator. Anyways, yeah, dreams. Pretty cool, I guess. I like it a lot. I would be way more addicted to it if they added exporting. But right now they don't have exporting, so I just like to use my PC to create things like models and stuff. But in Dreams, I will always use it to make music, because there is no better music creator than the one in Dreams. You can try to fight me on that, you can't. You can't even imagine a better one. That's how good it is. Okay. And I think Ellie died. So that's the end of it all. Man, he probably died with the whole brain dead thing I was doing earlier. But besides that whole like 5 minute whatever that happened, it basically has an hour and 40 minutes of stuff to kind of show off in one video, I guess. Um, I might just make this into a video and just like cut a lot of weird nonsense out and just send that to Ellie. Uh, what else was I thinking of doing? Oh yeah, I was about to show you the tutorials. So, Dreams Workshops is where all the tutorials are for people who are just getting into dreams. Um, Many of these tutorials will have many different steps depending on one you're using. I actually did complete all the tutorials, but the update that made this into early alpha reset those. But I do have the imp quest. Okay, look at that imp quest. Where is it? Right there. Yeah. Complete all the tutorials. That's what this one is. I just spoiled you. Anyways, that's going to be the end of the stream. I'm going to compress this into a video. Okay, now time to start.